Welcome back. Today, of course, is September the 22nd, and it is World Rhino Day. It's marked every year on this day. And here's some shocking statistics. Between January and August of 2017, poachers have killed a total of 7 rhinos. Of course, it underscores the importance of this day. We want to learn why the black rhino, for instance, is important to the system, and what is being done to help this, to help the rhinos, actually. So joining us is Mohammed Awer. He is the CEO of WWF, and also Francis Gakuya, who is the Chief Veterinary Officer, right? Yes, of Kenya Wildlife Service. So they're going to be painting the picture for us. I guess we'll begin with you, Mr. Mohammed. What is the importance of World Rhino Day?
World Rhino Day is a day that the world comes together to recognize the threat facing rhino and many other wildlife species, and recognize also the collective action happening globally, nationally, at local levels to manage this problem. As you know, rhino is part of our heritage as people in Kenya. When you go out of this country, the two things that many people in the world associate us with as Kenyans are, number one, our runners, the athletes who do us proud, and number two is our wildlife.
Right.
You introduce yourself as Kenya, and the thing people talk about is Jambo, Safari,
right, yeah.
And tourism in Kenya is primarily driven by wildlife. So these are important heritage of ours that we must protect. And over the last, let's say, 10 years, there has been a serious threat to wildlife, especially the conspicuous charismatic species, the elephants and rhinos. The rhinos we are today about marking rhinos, and rhinos have suffered a great deal in the last 30 years. For those who don't know, we used to have about 20,000 black rhinos in Kenya as late as 70s. That number went down to only 350 towards the end of the 80s. And through concerted efforts, we are rebuilding that population. Today, we can proudly say that we have more than doubled that number. And it is about doing this because what we face is not the best. Because you know that once extinction of a species happens, it is forever, which is the theme of today, which is extinction is forever, time for action is now.
Right.
If it happens, it's not reversible. So this is what this day is all about, to really galvanize people in different parts of the world to join this collective action, to reverse this trend and to rebuild our population to where it used to be. Right.
Just look at what the numbers, Mr. Francis. The numbers, like you say, there's a lot of improvement. There's growth, but there's still that shocking statistic that I started with, that about 7 rhinos have been killed so far by poachers. So what is being done, to kind of curb, this menace of poaching by KWS?
Yeah, rhino conservation is facing a number of threats, and the major threat is poaching. Rhinos are usually secured in highly secured sanctuaries that are fenced, and the purpose of that is to protect them and to enhance breeding, because what we want to achieve is a growth rate that is sustainable, so that we can keep the growth rate sustainable for us to get the required numbers. So in terms of poaching, a lot of efforts have been put in, more so in terms of equipment, personnel training, in terms of interagency collaborations. And this has seen a major drop in the numbers of rhinos that are being poached. Yeah.
Right. So what are some of what technology has been put in place? I know there's notching is being done, but also how does the chip work, for example? And what is it used for?
Yeah, there are several methods that are being put. One of them is what you have talked about, individual identification. Because all the rhinos that we have in this country must be individually identified so that they can be monitored on a day-to-day basis. So what we do is that we put what is called individual marking system. So we ear notch those rhinos with a specific number that when during monitoring, when the officers sees that rhino, they can identify it as an individual. We also put rhino transmitters, which can be used to easily follow those animals and be able to see them and monitor them, such that it's possible to be proactive and make sure that any threat that they face, you know exactly where they are. It's very important.
Right, and also going back to you, Mr. Awer, you know, yes, it's the World Rhino Day, and people would ask then, okay, why is it important? What effect do they have, like to the economy, for example?
The rhinos are what we call the umbrella species, and that is an ecological function of rhinos, in the sense that if you protect rhinos, you will protect several species. The whole concept of umbrella species is a species that has an important ecological function, that by focusing on it, you are able to have a multiplier effect. Let me give you an example. Black rhinos are browsers. And one of the best practices in range management is bush control, which can be done in different ways, including bushfires with disastrous effect. And by rhinos browsing on their top feeders on these bushes, they are able to provide an environment where grasses can thrive. And when grasses thrive, then the other herbivores have sufficient food to survive and live comfortably. And when the herbivores are comfortable, the predators are also comfortable, because the predators are also important for the ecological equilibrium. So they have a very important function in the ecosystem. So that is an ecological function, and that is why globally rhinos are considered as important species. Right. But more importantly is the national, social, and the cultural importance of these species. We are Kenyans, and we have a lot of attachment to animals like rhinos, and where they used to live places like Savos, there was a lot of sentimental attachment by the communities, whether the Kambas or the Taitas, to these animals. In terms of economy, 2 out of every 3 visitors that comes to Kenya comes to see wildlife. Yes. Out of 3? Every 3, primarily for wildlife. Okay. They will end up at the sea, you know, the sand beaches, but what drives them to come here is wildlife. And take the example of Mara, and of course you can take the other side, Serengeti. These are the 2 places where every tourist must come. And one of the things, animals that every tourist will want to see are the rhinos. So if we lose rhinos out of that, we'll have 4 big ones, not 5 anymore. True. There'll be a dental. There will be a dental, and that will have an impact on our economy, including not just actual amounts that is earned from tourists, but also foreign exchange earnings, and all the employment created around tourism in this country. So this is not just something about tagging rhinos or people who are just out there because we love these animals, but because of the very economic contributions that they make to our country. Right. And it is also our national pride that, you know, we maintain these places, and we have something to give to the world. We don't, unfortunately, have many things to give to the world. Right. We have these things that we proudly say, Mara, Mara. And you know, when you're outside, you tell these people, you know, why didn't you come to Masai Mara? And say, you know, I'm saving, I'm saving, I want to come to this place. So it is our responsibility as a people, Kenyans, to make sure that we have something that we can give back to the world. Right. Yeah. As an of also just by there's Mara in Luo means mine. It's actually Nieto. So talk about also like, you know, the efforts that are being made in terms of, maybe you can tell us about some of the sanctuaries as well in terms of the KWF.
As I stated earlier, when the poaching menace was at its highest, and it was realized that we might be losing the species, one of the strategies was taken was to mop up the rhinos, because they were scattered across the country.
So to put them in one place.
So we put them in one place so that we protect them and enhance breeding. So a number of sanctuaries were created, and over time we have created some more. So once that was done, and the animals were well protected, the population grew, And once it grows, it reaches a carrying there's a carrying capacity for each and every space that you have, because space is very important for conservation of any species. So once that reaches, the alternative really is to move the surplus to a new sanctuary. So that one has happened over time. So animals have been moved from one sanctuary, creation of new ones, securing of more habitat for them. And we have quite a number of sanctuaries, some that are public managed, others that are privately managed. And the most popular or the most known is Nairobi National Park. It's one of the best breeding rhino sanctuary, like Nakuru National Park. We have Buria Sanctuary, then which are public managed. Then we have private ranches that are also very good sanctuary of rhinos. Sorio Ranch, Pajada Conservancy, Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, and Orjogi Ranch, and several others across the country. Ruma National Park is also a newly established sanctuary. So we keep on expanding so that we can improve the numbers and still secure the population. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we are able to curb poaching, then we will, as much as possible, like the rhinos to be free range. Because when they are free ranging and the poaching menace is low, there is a more probability or bigger probability of them breeding, because that will be more natural than the way we have done. But as he said, through this initiative, we have been able to breed the populations to almost twice, almost beyond twice of what we had in the late 80s, amidst the poaching menace that has been there for the last 10 years, which is, but now it's really under control.
Just to add to that, as it is now, as Francis says, the biggest threat is poaching. And the focus, as set out in the National Rhino Strategy, is to enhance security. And for us, we believe the best way is to congregate them in smaller units, the sanctuaries as he put them, so that personnel can be deployed more effectively. And they have closer contact and watch over these animals. And this is going to be the way as we continue into the near future. We don't think that we will get to a situation where we will let these animals free range, because they have continued demand in Asia. And so what we are saying is, as the population is growing, we recognize there is going to be a need for more spaces, more secure spaces, sanctuaries. In fact, with KWS, we have just completed WWF and the KWF have completed the newest sanctuary in Savo East, which is going to take about another 100 animals. So this is something that is continuous, that as we increase the population, we will also have to deal with the challenge and find resources to establish more sanctuaries. But more fundamentally, which is also focus of today's event, which is the Rhino Day, is to galvanize global action at different places, not only at the sources like Africa and Asia, but also the markets. And I can report that China is going to close the domestic market, Hong Kong is going to close, but there are many other places that are not done. And the other thing is also technology. As we are involving on technology, the DNA indexing, using chips, all these poachers are also evolving. The latest, for your information, is that in South Africa, they are converting rhino horn into products and exporting them, which reduces the capacity of agencies to detect them. So we are dealing with people who are also smarter, who are, using technology as much as we are using. So we also have to be on the standby and think ahead of them. What are the things that these people are developing, as we are also developing all these technologies to manage them? So this is an evolving challenge, and the good thing is that we also want to invest a global action, including education, because there are so many myths around rhino horn that there supports things that people just imagine, or it is medicinal, it is this and that, and we need to educate people that there are better ways of doing the things you want to do. You imagine you can do with these rhinos. That in fact this rhino horn is not different than your nail. in terms of chemical content, it's not different from Yane. And this is what we need to educate people, especially our friends in Asia. Because people are investing so much into this. And then we also have to invest in technologies that provide ornamental alternatives to these people, because for the rich in some Asian markets, it is about pride.
Right.
That this one is made of ivory or is made of rhino. So we have to also think what are some of the alternatives that we can give to these people.
Right. Right. And of course, just maybe the last thing as well, what can be done even going forward, apart from today, because you're going to celebrate World Rhino Day, but what can we do so that this thing is in the heart and mind of Kenyans? Maybe I'll start with you, and also your message to Kenyans about conservancy.
Yeah, I think, as you said, education and awareness is very, very important, in that it creates the it brings awareness that these animals are highly charismatic. We need them. They have economic value. They're endangered. But most importantly is also to make sure that it's understood that the horn they are talking about is just keratin. It's just like your nail. It has no medicinal properties.
So it's not an aphrodisiac like they say in Asia.
As it said, aphrodisiac as it said, it has no medicinal value really. It's just like your nail and so on and so forth. But also, as a country, we are really focusing on technology, as you said, in that DNA technology has come up. And what we are doing is that we are using rhinoceros DNA indexing system. And this system is where we individually have a DNA profile of every rhino in the country and across the range. The range states are Eastern and Southern Africa. So we have each and every rhino will be profiled, such that if there is a horn that is confiscated, we can with 100% surety link it to a certain case of poaching. So if a poacher is whoever is got with that rhino, there can be much more charges, because we can identify and say this rhino was killed here, and this person then entered the park, so that's another charge. This person killed an endangered animal, because it's another charge, because it has been identified other than just possession. And for if we got the ballistic, and the ballistic analysis, or what is called ballistic forensics, is done, then we can say he used a weapon, so it was illegally acquired. So you can see that one single technology can bring a multiplicity of charges, and that somebody cannot go scot-free.
Right.
It's very, the evidence is quite high. So a technology really is the way to go, and also biological management to make sure that these animals breed within the preferred rate of about 5% per annum, so that the growth can be sustained through various other biological management mechanisms, some of which we have talked about.
All right. Of course, we'd like to say a big thank you for coming. Of course, we will continue, like we always say, it's not just about today. Yesterday is World Rhino Day, but going forward, education is important. Of course, WWF, KWS as well. You can always find them across all social media platforms as well. Where is the event going to be today? Where are you marking?
In Nyanyuki.
In Nyanyuki. All right, so if you can make your way there, but over and above, you can always contact the two bodies for any more information. So let's say thank you so much for coming. Remember to keep talking to us in case you have any questions, views, comments. The hashtag is Power Breakfast. The SMS line is still 22422. Coming up next is Roy T-Boy. It's Friday, so I want to get you in that Friday mood. We have brand new music that we're going to be talking about with him. Up next, it is at Roy T-Boy, that is TEEBOY, at Roy T-Boy. That and the hashtag is Level Up Fridays. Good morning.